It was the middle of a brutal winter blackout, the kind where silence takes over the streets, and the only sound is the occasional crack of ice underfoot. I was on my front porch, bundled in 2 jackets, lighting my fire pit with a blowtorch because yes, it was that cold when she showed up. Open flames are prohibited, she barked like she was issuing a citation, not yelling across someone else's lawn. That alone would have been annoying enough. But then she actually smirked and added, "Maybe you should have paid your HOA fees like the rest of us." Her name was Lorraine. I didn't know a dime. And what she didn't know, what she never thought to find out, is that I was the guy who signed off on the electrical permits for her entire HOA. But let me back up. 3 months earlier, I inherited the house from my late Uncle Ron. The place was fully paid off, sat just outside the formal HOA boundary line, and came with a legacy grid tie-in that, legally, had nothing to do with the HOA's jurisdiction. At the time, that detail didn't seem like a big deal. Just a quirk of property lines. But later? Oh, it would matter. I thought I'd escape the chaos of apartment life. I pictured a quiet slice of suburbia, a porch to drink coffee on, and enough space to breathe. But what I got was a step-forward suburb nightmare dressed in khakis and pastel sweaters. This wasn't just any gated neighborhood. It was the kind where every driveway looked identical, where landscaping had to be HOA approved, and where everyone pretended to be best friends at holiday potlucks while secretly reporting each other for grass height violations. And Lorraine? Lorraine was the self-appointed queen. Mid-50s, daily power walking enthusiast, wore pearls while raking leaves. Yes, really. She'd been HOA president for 8 years running and introduced herself to me with a clipboard in hand and a welcome to the neighborhood packet printed in Comic Sans. Tucked behind that smile? A violation notice for parking my truck on my own gravel driveway. At first, I laughed. Thought it was some clerical mix-up. Lorraine didn't laugh. Her eyes narrowed like she was deciding whether I was going to be a problem or just another resident she could bulldoze. I told her flat out that I hadn't joined the HOA and didn't plan to. I even showed her the deed. No HOA attachment. No binding agreement. No jurisdiction over me. She stared at me like I just kicked her poodle. She left in silence, but not before giving the firewood stacked neatly beside my porch a look of utter disdain. That's when the notes started. Handwritten and signed, but unmistakably her. Please consider painting your shutters neutral beige for community cohesion. Reminder, gravel driveways are a fire hazard. Reconsideration of your non-HOA status may benefit all parties involved. She was baiting me. I didn't bite. I just documented everything. What Lorraine never thought to ask, what no one ever thought to ask, was what I actually did for a living. I worked in power grid inspection. Not only did I know the infrastructure of neighborhoods like hers, I was the one who audited, approved, and greenlit transformer upgrades, grid extensions, and substation licenses. I approved everything from municipal tie-ins to residential development power permits, including her HOA. But I didn't use that as a weapon out at first. I tried being neighborly, tried flying under the radar. Lorraine, though, wasn't looking for peaceful coexistence. She wanted compliance. She wanted submission. So when the forecast started warning of a record-breaking winter storm, I prepped quietly. Uncle Ron had been a bit of a prepper, and the solar array he'd installed years before had aged like wine. My house ran partially off-grid, supported by battery banks, a propane generator, and radiant emergency heaters, all fully legal, all code-compliant, all outside the HOA's reach. The HOA, on the other hand, had their own set of protocols for blackouts: no visible gas tanks, no wood-burning fires, and no personal generators unless screened and HOA approved. I ignored them. I wasn't part of the HOA. The storm hit hard. Just past 7 p.m., the whole neighborhood went dark. Well, not mine. My fire pit was crackling. Lights on. Coffee hot. Lorraine showed up in a fury, bundled like she was trekking Everest, eyes wild with envy. Her house was a tomb of ice, and mine glowed like a holiday postcard. She accused me of violating fire codes, endangering neighbors, breaking rules that didn't apply to me. I told her polite Lido, leave my property. That's when she smirked again and muttered, maybe this will teach you to pay your fair share. I didn't think much of it. Just another Lorraine tantrum. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No power. Not even my backup systems. Something was wrong. I went outside, followed the line from my inverter to the shared transformer near the property edge, and stopped cold. The cable had been severed. Not unplugged. Not malfunctioning. Cut. Clean. Precise. Confused, then furious, I went straight to the footage from the wildlife cam I'd hidden near the box. I'd installed it to keep raccoons from chewing the lines. Instead, I saw a man, one of the HOA board members, wearing a headlamp, holding bolt cutters, looking right into the camera and smiling before he sliced the line. I called the sheriff. Civil matter, they said. I called the HOA. Miscommunication, they claimed. I called my attorney. He said, keep every record. They just made it personal. I didn't yell, didn't threaten. I just started writing an inspection order. Because Lorraine didn't know that the permits she would need to restore her neighborhood's power the following week, they all had to go through me. And suddenly, I had some serious concerns about their electrical infrastructure. When Lorraine walked past my driveway the next day, sipping coffee like she hadn't just orchestrated a sabotage, and chirped, maybe now you'll learn how we do things around here, I smiled. Because she didn't know, didn't have a clue what she just set in motion. That afternoon, I submitted the paperwork. A full compliance audit. State level. Mandatory. 2 mornings later, an orange utility truck rolled into the neighborhood. Not one of the usual contractors. Lorraine froze mid-step as it stopped in front of the HOA's office shed. She didn't recognize the logo. But I did. On the windshield was a notice with my signature, labeled, Mandatory Compliance Review Power Infrastructure. That was just the beginning. I wasn't being vengeful. I was doing my job. But that didn't stop the dominoes from falling. When the inspection crew showed up clipboard in hand, safety vests on, they found exposed wires, ungrounded transformer pads, and a wiring setup behind the pool fence that looked like a DIY tutorial gone wrong. Photos were taken. Reports were filed. The next day, Lorraine appeared at my door with cookies. Store-bought, overly wrapped, suspiciously lukewarm. She smiled like Stepford Barbie and chirped, I think we got off on the wrong foot. I told her I wasn't hungry. She didn't budge. Switched to guilt. It's hard being HOA president, you know? Nobody appreciates the work. I'd be so grateful if you took it easy on the inspection crew. I cut her off. You know what would have made this easier? She blinked. Not cutting my power during a blackout. She didn't have a response. 3 days later, the state issued a notice. The HOA failed inspection. Their infrastructure was deemed non-compliant across 5 categories. Fines pending. Permits suspended. They couldn't legally authorize maintenance, approve access to shared systems, or reconnect to the grid. Lorraine's little empire? Powerless. And guess who the nearest legally functional grid hookup belonged to? Me. Lorraine showed up again, this time wrapped in a wool shawl like some Christmas ghost of HOA past. She demanded answers. I told her my off-grid setup was working just fine. She accused me of sabotaging the HOA. You did that all by yourself, I said. That night, the neighborhood group chat, usually dead, exploded. Someone had leaked inspection photos. Memes followed. One showed Lorraine photoshopped onto a utility pole. The next morning, someone posted a screenshot from my security cam. The bolt cutter smile. My name in the corner. And suddenly everyone knew. I found a certified letter on my porch the next day. The HOA was requesting my signature to reinstate provisional permits. I didn't sign it. I waited, let them squirm. Eventually, Lorraine showed up again. No clipboard. No pearls. Just her and a folder. Inside, actual repair plans, contractor receipts, updated documentation. Legit stuff. But it still wasn't enough. Looks good, I said. Why didn't you do this in the first place? She looked down. I didn't think it would go this far. It didn't, I said. You dragged it this far. Then I added, if you want my signature, I need one thing. She looked up. Resign. Publicly. Today. She left without another word. Hours later, an email blast went out. Lorraine was stepping down. The neighborhood erupted like Mardi Gras. I still didn't sign right away. I waited until the interim board took over. They weren't perfect, but they were honest. And when the power came back on for the neighborhood, let's just say I got more than a few nods of thanks. But then one of the new board members, showed up at my door with a cardboard box. He'd found it behind some insulation at the HOA office. Inside, folders. Financial reports that didn't match public records. Phantom contractor payments. Dues that had disappeared into private accounts. One file showed a fund for security cameras that had been rerouted to a personal storage unit. I didn't call the city or the board. I called the state's fraud division. What started as a petty neighborhood feud had just become a criminal investigation. Subpoenas dropped. Auditors arrived. Lorraine was arrested quietly without drama. Just a gray car and 2 agents who walked her to the curb. Weeks later, the HOA voted to dissolve entirely. 89% in favor. They asked me to join the transitional committee. I declined. Not because I didn't care, because I didn't want the power. I'd seen what it did to people. My revenge wasn't about punishment. It was survival. Outlasting Lorraine. Making sure no one like her ever held that much unchecked control again. On a warm spring afternoon, a moving truck pulled up to Lorraine's house. Her daughter helped carry boxes. I didn't ask where she was going. Didn't care. Later that evening, Ree invited me to a barbecue. Celebrating the end, he said. I told him I'd think about it. As he walked away, neighbors laughed in the yards. Kids played. No HOA to bark at them about it. I lit my fire pit again. No blowtorch. No confrontation. Just peace. And as the flames danced in the cold air, I thought back to that winter night when Lorraine smirked at me over HOA fees. She didn't know. She never knew that I was the guy who signed her grid permit, and she had just pulled the wrong plug.